Blissed and blessed vibrations, blissed and blessed vibrations. Welcome home, dear ones. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being you. So this episode's a bit different today because I'm attempting to record on I'm doing the podcast and I'm doing the YouTube at the same time. So, and I got elemental craziness going on around me. Do you know what I mean? I got storms. I got one moment I got cyclones. Next moment I got this unbelievably hot weather. Next moment I got all these bugs trying to bite me. I got all these ants coming at me. I got mosquitoes. I got everything going on here. I'm forgetting that I'm also recording 2 devices, so if it sounds weird at any point, know that I've got all these things going on. Yeah, so just have fun with it. Hope you're laughing along as I am. So yeah, blissed and blessed. I'm so thankful for you being here. For people that ain't listened to me before, Wisdom Wanderings is a podcast of remembrance of truth, remembrance of reality, remembrance of love, wisdom and joy. Do you know what I mean? And that ain't saying that everything that happens in life is going to be immediately, obviously joyful. There's things which happen to us which are immensely sad, immensely emotionally difficult to reconcile. But that don't mean that there ain't joy in that. That don't mean that there ain't joy to be found in the algebra, in the integration of that. You feel? Because like, we're here to learn lessons, we're here to learn. We're here to take life as a school. And so if all these lessons were easy, then, do you know what I mean? The lessons would be pointless in a sense. So, well, why bother here? So it's to find the love and the wisdom, joy, and no matter what that happens, to find the learnings and the teachings, and to find the guru where the guru appears. But now the inner guru, the energy, is ever present. But we're remembering that the G is everywhere you look. So with that being said, welcome for being here. Thank you for the people that have supported me, even just give me a like, a share, a rating. People that have donated, thank you, love ya. People that ain't donated, thank you, love ya. Keep doing you. Thanks for helping me support you. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, my book's coming out very soon. I'm hoping to get that done. Well, it's definitely going to be done by the end of Jan. I mean, the time it takes to edit a book and whatnot, I'm like, oh damn. This is a big affair, do you know what I mean? So yeah, it's going to be done soon, so look out for that. I'm going to put all the links in the description where you can find all this stuff. So yeah, support me if you wish, if you will, that'd be so appreciated. There's my paper. I've got cicadas going off as well, so yeah, hope you can hear it all good. So yes, keep following and keep sharing the love, and I really appreciate it. So with that being said, let's go into today's episode. Quarantine and the 40 days. Coronation Street and the end of Daze. So this one's a big one, and I've been gearing up for this for time, do you know what I mean? Anyone that's been listening to my work, to my play, has been hearing about this one coming. And I'm sure it's all been present for you guys as to what this is all about, that we're going through on a global level, do you know what I mean, in a local level too. What these words are that keep being spouted, And yeah, what does it mean for us to be undertaking these cosmic convergences that we're going through? Do you know what I mean? So yeah, let's get into it. So 2020, what a huge year it has been. If we're following the Gregorian calendar, like so many of today's modern people do, we've just been in 2020. So what is typically associated with 2020? It's 2020 vision, right? It's the year of clear vision. But it's also the measure of visual acuity, how well you can see. And this was interesting for me because, like, when this whole thing kicked off for Corona and that, yeah, people, they kind of, I guess the main people kind of close to me in my life held it down. Do you know what I mean? It was like, we knew what was going on. We knew ourselves, and we knew that fear is just an illusion. Do you know what I mean? But it was very interesting to see the ones, even the ones who were like kind of talking a lot of spiritual things and blah blah blah, coming out with all the fear-based programmings and buying into the false evidence appearing real. So it was interesting for me because like I looked to like people like my brother and that, and he was like onto it. Like, that's the straw that broke the camel's back. Like, boom. I seen through the veil. Do you know what I mean? And I'll come to that in a minute as to what that means. So visual acuity. And visual acuity is measured by your ability to identify letters and numbers, symbols. And so the goddess works in symbols, right? So if we can identify the symbols that are present to us, then we can learn how to cooperate and co-evolve with the energetics of what are coming through. So put it in another way, I can discern via my understanding of symbols, my understanding of words, and this is why I wrote the book Innerstanding. So you can see more on this when it comes out. Through understanding those things, I can look at what is going on in front of me and see how it's a symbol for my awakening. See how it's there for my teachings, for my learnings. Do you know what I mean? Visual acuity is tested under high contrast. The conditions are high contrast. Typically the letters and the numbers of the eye chart are black, and the background is white. So think about the checkerboard of the Freemasons. Do you know what I mean? The black and white squares, the chessboard. So we need high contrast to be put in our faces for us to understand the nature of what we are not, the nature of the false, the reality of the true. Things are made obvious for us. We are helped in that regard. Do you know what I mean? And now, as we saw in 2020, it was impossible for people to disregard these things. It was impossible for people to be like, oh nah, keep going, keep clubbing, keep doing your thing, keep traveling to Italy, keep blah blah blah. It's like you gotta like step in. You gotta tune in. Do you know what I mean? Because you got nothing else to do. You're locked down, mate. You're in quarantine. So let's get in. Well, before I get into what quarantine means, I just want to say one more thing. So we're in apocalypse now. This is the unveiling. That's what apocalypse means, the unveiling. So for those who have the eyes to see and the ears to hear, it's the great reveal, or the great conceal. The great mask. So, depending on where you're at, it's revealing to you of what state you're at in your inner. Do you know what I mean? As the outer always has been. There's nowhere to go but in. So with that being said, quarantine, and what does quarantine mean? Why does it keep being brought up? What's going on here? So, quarantine, quarantino, 40, 40 days. And so what's the significance of 40? And the 40 days, what does that mean? So 40 days were seen as the critical days. It's said that the word is coming from when the boats were coming into Venice and they made people dock for 40 days. And the 40th day was seen as the critical day. And so what's going on there? What does that mean? Where's that come from? So 40 is a mystical number. It's mystical but practical too, do you know what I mean? It's the limit of separation, transformation and transfiguration. For the alchemists, it was the philosophical month. It was and is. It's the period of the alembic, the container of transfiguration. And so it appears all the time in the Bible, all the time in this mystical text, in this text which needs to be reading between the lines because it is written in codex. So Moses was 40 days in the mount. Elijah was 40 days fed by ravens. The rain and the floods was 40 days. Another 40 expired before Noah opened the window in the ark. Jesus fasted for 40 days. Pythagoras made his disciples fast for 40 days before they could enter the mystery schools. So you feel me? It's the period of isolation. It's the period of where one goes within oneself to burn away, to transfigure, to burn away the impurities, to transform oneself from a caterpillar to a butterfly. So it's the chrysalis. It's the incubator. It feels so. What have you been? What have, no doubt you who are listening to this right now, what have you been doing this year? Well, for the most part of this year, you've been incubating, right? You ain't been able to do much. You've been forced into the chrysalis. Now, sometimes the alchemical processes they're not consciously engaged in, do you know what I'm saying? Because life has a plan for us, even if we don't know what the plan is. So you're being forced into your limbic. You're being forced into that container to burn away everything which don't serve. to excel, to become the person you're supposed to be. And so it's the integration of myself and thyself. So 40 is the number of preparation. It's a number of waiting. It's the wisdom of darkness. And it's the natural process of solution and disintegration. It's a period of introspection and immersion in the unconscious. In that space that perhaps ain't even part of your sphere. You have no idea what the unconscious even is for yourself. Do you know what I mean? But it's that deep down place where a lot of things are undercover, under the veil. Which when brought to light, elevates us and enhances us. You feel? And so, talking about the wisdom and the darkness, is the wisdom of Goddess, right? And so many fear the Goddess. So many fear her. I mean, you look in today's culture, the nature of this culture, right? And the nature of how it treats the feminine. It treats the goddess. It's not an integrated reality, right? Particularly with men, with a failure, with a fear, with a trepidation of entering that void, entering the womb, entering the darkness, entering the place where it's not visible, but it is visible. It's all around you. It's pure potentiality. So it's the time of entering the void, to see the void. See of the void, co-void, COVID. And it's the time to wash, clean and cleanse in the waters of life. And so let's get into a little bit of the mystic element of this thing. Let's get, do you know what I mean? Let's get into it. So, I love the Medanetta, because I love Kemet. So what am I saying now? What does that mean? So, Kemet is the old word for Egypt, what you know as Egypt. And Kemet, Kamat, Kamau, the goddess, alchemy. And the Medanetta is those symbols or the words of nature. Netta, nature. You may know them as hieroglyphs. These are sacred symbols which mean a great deal just in and of themselves. And put together, they mean even more things, right? So I'm gonna talk here about the hieroglyph for water, because this is gonna start to get crazy right now. So in the Medanetta, the hieroglyph for water is Mem. Well, it's the ancestor of the Semitic letter Mem, right? So the Semitic alphabets and things come from Kemet. Kemet is the father of those languages, okay? So in gematria, which is the study of linguistic attributes, correspondences with numbers, so every letter has a number, we find that Mem is 40. And so before I even said anything else, maybe some of you listening to this are like, oh damn, water's 40. I think I know where this is going. Here we go, people. So, it's 40. So we're like, right, what's going on there with 40 and water? So in the Sefer Yetzirah, one of the most ancient texts that we have and attributed to Jewish mysticism, but I would say that it's much more than just Jewish mysticism, do you feel me? Translates as the Book of Formation. So we're seeing that in the Sefer Yetzirah, that Mem is associated with king over water and formed earth in the universe. And so when we look at these old texts, like the Sefer Yetzirah, like the I Ching, it speaks in poetry, okay? So the poetic terms they're terms which need to be understood as a wholeness, as a multiplicity, as a singularity. So they are meaning multiple things because they convey something of such import. So it's important to keep that in mind when we're analysing these things, right? So I'll just say that again, just so you can take time just to let it sink in and understand it. Mem is associated with king over water and formed earth in the universe. Jesus walked on water. In man is the measure of the universe. In us, we're talking sacred geometry here, so in the human, we find the measurements of earth. We find the measurements of the moon. We find the measurements of all. So in understanding yourself, in knowing yourself, in knowing what you are and more, then you can understand as to what is going on around you and more. You feel? So there are mysteries here, but there ain't no mysteries too, do you feel? It's like everything is being presented to you in front of your face, and it's whether you have the ability to see the correspondences. So I ain't just saying all this stuff just because I'm wanting to be positive and all that business. Nah, far from it, mate. I ain't interested in that being all positive and that all the time. I'm interested in being real. And the reality in itself is joyous because it always comes back to unity and it always comes back to peace and beauty, you know. It's when you ain't understanding that. It's when you get yourself in mental anguish because you misuse the mind. That's when shit starts to get whack. Because then you're creating and you're making up all these things that ain't reality, they're just made up things. So we'll carry on as to Mem, okay? And so Mem in the Kabbalistic tree of life, if you don't know what that is, I suggest you can look it up. Have a look at it, see what's going on there, because, I mean, I'm sure you're aware, the tree of life is a common theme that you see in different cosmologies, right? And so the supposed Jewish mystics created the Kabbalistic tree of life. And so Mem is the path between Gebura, which is, you could kind of sum it up. Oh, you know what I mean? Sum it up in the symbol of strength, Mars, or judgment, and it's the path between Gebura and Hod, which is splendor, associated with Mercury and the breakdown of form. So we find these two. We find this path on the left column, the path of severity, the path of being tested, the path representing constraints, restrictions. You feel me? So you see how all this is being tied together. You see what we're going through as the collective that is tying into the grand cosmic connection, you feel? So it's local and global. So now let's go on to the tarot, because the tarot is the wheel, the rota. And so Mem is associated with the Hanged Man in the tarot. Now the Hanged Man is a funny symbol, because people often take it completely the wrong way. Do you know what I mean? It's seen as like a negative symbol, or like a scary symbol, or a fearful symbol. And so we look at the current events and we say, same thing, mate. People taking this right now as being a fearful thing, a scary thing, a thing of death. Aha, alas. To truly live, one must die. And so this is what we're seeing with the current time. This is what we're seeing with life. Who is scared to die? Who is scared to be swept up in the void? Swept up in the womb? Who is afraid to enter the chrysalis? So, because it's just so good, and it's so brilliant for summing up what the Hangman energy is about, I'm just going to read a quote from Aleister Crowley, who wrote many magical texts and things, and he wrote the fourth tarot as well. So I'm just going to read out this quote. The Hanged Man in the tarot is representing the spiritual function of water in the economy of initiation, a baptism which is also a death. In nature, Homo sapien is a marine mammal, and our intrauterine existence is passed in the amniotic fluid. The legend of Noah, the Ark of the Flood, and the flood is no more than hieratic representation of the facts of life. It is then to water that the adepts have always looked, to the continuation of life in some sense or other, and to the prolongation and perhaps reenactment of life, and renovation of life. And so we're seeing here that the story is of death and rebirth, life and resurrection, upliftment and exaltation. And it's the crowning. Corona, crowning. Corona is the crown. Did you feel me at the start when I said about it ain't necessarily all joyful in that? Like, I ain't saying this is all joyful. I ain't saying this is like some big like boom massive fun and games blah blah blah. But what I'm saying is that when you're understanding it and understanding what the process is about, then it can flip and it can turn to that. Like, mate, trust me, in these recent times I'm going through some things, do you know what I mean? I'm going through anger. I'm going through all the things in the collective current. But I'm allowing it to pass through. I'm not attributing it personal. It ain't about me, do you know what I mean? It's about me, but it ain't about me. It's like we're transmuting things in the unconscious, do you know what I mean? And that's the collective unconscious. So, just like the thoughts that pass through and run through, or we allow them to pass and run through without attributing personal connection to those things, do you know what I mean? So, when a baby is about to be born, it crowns. And it's a time when a woman needs to push hard because the baby's coming, do you know what I mean? And the baby's being born, baby. This is the new way. This is where we're coming into, people. So, you feel how all this is tying together? You feel what we're saying when we're saying about the quarantine, when we're saying about the isolation, when we're saying about the time of the container and the burning away all which don't serve and elevating our substance to a higher degree and a higher level, do you feel? So let's go on a little bit further and let's talk about the dissolution and the distillation. So in the distillation, the artificial constructs of the psyche are broken down. So all the things that we attributed to be us, all the story that we have written as to, this is me, I'm that, I ain't that, I don't do that, we don't do that, this is our tradition, this is this, this is that. This is my friends, I can't do this, It's all story, mate. It's all bullshit at the end of the day. Most people are living lives of just complete unreality, complete made up rubbish. And that ain't to diss those people. It's just to say, when the story ain't a story of unity, connection, peace, love, vibrancy, joy, it ain't true, mate. So there ain't no reason sticking with it, Phil. Even if everyone around you in your sphere is on that wave, you ain't got to be on that wave. Now, it don't mean you got to move from the sphere. But it just means that you don't have to be influenced by the sphere. And it is in the dissolution that one remembers themselves. Or the remembrance of self begins, do you feel me? So you've broken down into bits, all of who you are, who you think you are. And then it's the remembrance, the remember, putting the body back together again in a new formulation that starts to begin. And importantly, this time, well, every time, the halo is reincorporated. The hallowed days, the hallowed ways, where everything is sacred, everything you do sacred, everything you are is sacred, and nothing else that has ever been that ain't sacred. You feel that, like, our crown is found. And this is the secret, this is the sacred. The crown's never been anywhere else but on your head, mate. You're born with a crown. You crown when you come out. You're born, mate. And so we're seeing, when I say the end of days, I'm saying the days of the unconscious is broken. because the spell of the glamour is no more, and just beauty is visible. So I'm going to do a later podcast on this, because we're talking about the difference between beauty and glamour and what it is. Now the spell is no more for the illusion, for the there's just a reality that is there and left. Do you feel? And so when I talk about Coronation Street in Daze, it's funny, when I was younger, I used to watch it with my mum, this soap opera called Coronation Street, and we used to watch it every single day, every single episode, blah blah blah. And like a typical soap opera, it goes through the dramas of life, right? And it's there for the unconscious to play out itself as to its dramas and purge itself of its dramas. Now, of course, with a soap opera, it don't purge it out and elevate itself. It just reconstitutes and recontinues the same dramas over and over and over again. Same storylines again and again and again and again. It don't elevate itself. It don't elevate itself beyond the soap opera, because it requires the soap opera to... It requires the drama for the continuation of its life. So obviously it wouldn't go beyond that. So a system in it, whatever you want to call it, energy extraction matrix, blah blah blah, it cannot exalt itself beyond that which it requires for the sustenance of itself, of its culture, because that would mean the end of its life. So it's about us emerging in the cleansing waters, away from the dramas. It's going beyond. It's the purging of toxicity. It's the spew that can't be stopped. And the more that you allow to release, the easier the process is. Do you feel? It's like people who are holding on to all these things. It's hard, mate. You're holding on to everything, but it can't be held on to, because change is the rule here. You gotta let go. And when you let go, something better always comes in its place anyway. And so they're called soap operas because the soap companies were sponsoring them. But read between the lines. It's there for us to cleanse out and cleanse what don't serve and what's toxicity, and creating needless, stupid little dramas based on egoic identity ain't needed for us. And so what emerges when we're beyond that? Immunity. I am unity. You've never been anything else but immune, dear one. You've never been nothing else but whole, dear one. You have never been nothing else but perfect, dear one. Now I want you to take in these words, take them in and live these words, feel these words. Like I said in the last podcast, look in the mirror and say these words. You've never been nothing else but perfect. You've never been nothing else but whole. There ain't no sin. There ain't no guilt. All there is eternal atonement, eternal forgiveness, eternal love. That's all there is here. Eternal unity. And so yes, what one what one has made of oneself must first be destroyed in order to move beyond and create something anew. You feel? So, in doing that, we enter the void. We enter the space of pure potentiality to dissolve ourselves. To live is to die. There's multiple deaths in this life. The first time I heard of this thing was when Leonardo da Vinci, I read a quote from him. I'm not going to be able to quote it properly, but he was saying something along the same lines as that. All the time I was learning to live, I was actually learning to die. And I was like, damn. Because it's so true. So true. We must surrender to be undone here. We undo, we see the false, and we recognize all that we are not to recognize all that we are. We know ourselves in full glory, full divinity. And we emerge from the chrysalis victorious. So yes, dear one, that's my message, that's my download, that's what I wanted to share for today. So it's all about understanding oneself, do you know what I mean? It's all about understanding who we are, what we're here to do, what the reality is. And anything which is peddled, which is of untruth, because it is spreading falsity, it's spreading fear, spreading things which are telling you are lacking in some regard, does not need to be adhered to. It don't need to be validated, because it is false. So mine's a message of peace, love, unity, and joy, and love, and wisdom. Because that is all there is here. That's all there is when you're living in reality. And this is interesting when the powers that be in that don't want people to take plant medicines and these things. And it's so interesting because that's a multi-leveled kind of understanding as to why that is. But just on a simple, basic, kind of one-pointed level, when you take all these things, the natural stuff reminds you that all is love. There's nothing here but the now. There's just life. And for a culture and a civilization and a people which are so geared to there's not enough, there's lack, once I do this thing, then I'll be happy, judgment, criticism, guilt, sin, none of that resonates with the way life is. It's all, you know what I mean, it's all made up. And anyone who's on a spiritual path, let's say, or anyone who takes plant medicines, it is instantly revealed. So this is a call for everyone who's listening to this to connect to yourself, connect to the land, connect to country, connect to the plant medicines, connect to all the forms of life as an aspect of oneself and of self. And all that's necessary here is faith. Faith finds the way. And it's to surrender in the void, surrender in the feminine. But then have that masculine presence to be able to hold that space for the feminine. And then to map the unknown which the feminine brings forth. So yeah, I feel like that's me done for today. I feel so blessed and blessed for you listening to this, for you connecting, and if you resonate, please like, share, subscribe, rate, donate, send me love, have me in your prayers, have the world in your prayers. Do anything you wish to show your gratitude. Yeah, so happy to release this podcast. I've been wanting to do it for time. There's been a few hiccups and things which have been all cosmic joke, just craziness things, but I've finally done it. And yeah, be a good retrospective for you for 2020 if you're listening to this in the next few days or whenever you listen to this. Sending you so much love, so much blessings. Keep finding the present in the present. And yeah, be in your heart and you'll be in mine. We share the same space of singularity and feel. So keep doing you. Keep being strong. No matter what happens, have the strength there that you can get through no matter what comes. Take it all in your stride. Love that which is. And know that whatever is happening is taking you to a place of strength, of unity, of connection, of love, wisdom, and joy. So thank you for being here, thank you for being you, and blessed and blessed vibrations. Catch you for the next one. Love ya.